Microminerals from Italy, from Aosta to Sicily. That's from all the Italian regions from north to south. I start in the north at Aosta and go today to Emilia-Romagna. And part 2 will in the southern part from Tuscany to Sicily and Sardinia also. I only do locations of which I have minerals by myself, and most of them I have visited. There are some that I got through exchanges with, let's say, local collectors over there. So all the minerals are in my own collection, and as usual, photos by me, etc. And okay, go the other way. We start with Valle d'Aosta, and that's the smallest region, with Mont Blanc on the border of France and Switzerland. That's here in the northwest. Before we start, in Italy we talk about regions, and in Italy there's 20 regions all over the country, and each region is further divided into provinces. So that's a bit different from what we are used to. And Italy is the favorite holiday country for Inge, my wife, and I. We visit it almost every year, and I've actually been to 17 of these 20 regions. And the presentation I will, in 2 parts, we will discuss 11 of them, because they yield the most from a mineralogical point of view. And what I do is I'll give you, let's say, a very small description of the region before turning to the minerals. On the left, the upper left is Aosta city, and this thing is called the Teatro Romano, the Roman theater, which can still be visited. It's a very, very nice city, not too large, so you can do it all by foot. Up here, upper right, is the glacier river. It's called Dora Baltea. It originates at the foot of the Mont Blanc, and the whole region has let's say, typical mountain villages like these here, with all these gray slate rooftops. And the region gets rugged, increasingly rugged towards the north and to the Mont Blanc massif that's in the northwest here. Then we start with the minerals from there. First of all, that's maybe a little bit redundant, but this thing is only 0.3 of a millimeter wide, and that's a scale that we're talking about here, as usual. And as I told you before, that's the reason why I always use crystal drawings, because with larger pieces you can do things like hardness, density, etc. But in micros that's not possible, of course. So as an alternative, without formal analysis, we do crystal shapes, we do crystal structure, paragenesis, a specific location, so all kinds of other knowledge and deduction. And as Steve pointed out in his Mineral Matters just 2 weeks ago, we don't talk about visual identification, because that's an impossible claim. But what we do is we try to recognize things because of the experience and the knowledge we have on all these aspects that I just mentioned. And this ischianite here, that's the first example. As you know, there are several varieties. The REE component in this case is yttrium, Y, but there are 2 others, that's CE, cerium, and neodymium. Neodymium, yeah. But at this site, only the Y variety occurs, and that also applies to the small crystal on the top. That's fluorapatite, this thing here. And that's for sure. because I know that because colorless crystals in this form here are only fluorapatite in all the literature that we have. So I think you should always say so far, but the chance that it is something else is very small. And it all comes from the Triolette glacier. Is it glacier or glacier? Oh, I don't know.
Thanks, yeah.
Okay, thanks. Then we have actinolite. Actinolite is one of the most common alpine minerals, and it occurs in a variety of habits. The hair-shaped habit is called bissolite, and to make things complicated, actinolite, as you know, is a member of the amphibole supergroup. And the yellow formula down here in the bottom of the screen is the general formula of the supergroup. And so, yeah, there's as you know, A, X, and Z can take different elements. So there's a very large group, and visually they are impossible to distinguish. But in this case, we know because it's from this location that it is actinolite variety bissolite. And in the same region, there's a place called Bellecombe. That's French, of course. And this thing is here, at least it's famous because the garnets here are always and only hessonite. And as you know, hessonite is a garnet. It's a group, not as extensive as the amphibole supergroup, but nevertheless with quite a number of members. And hessonite is the calcium aluminum member, but of course you can tell that by just looking at it. I know where it was found, and that's the reason why I know that this is hessonite. And one thing more to keep the terminology straight. Hessonite is not a variety of garnet; it's a separate mineral that is a member of the garnet group, and that's the same as the actinolite in the previous picture is a separate mineral within the amphibole supergroup, whereas bissolite is not a separate mineral but a variety of actinolite. And I always try to keep the terminology clear. So this is an independent mineral from a group, and it's not a variety of garnet. Then from the same locality, Bellecombe, this is Vesuvianite, and as the formula indicates, is a complex silicate. It's a Soro silicate to be precise. It's usually clearly crystallized, and it can take all kinds of color variations, and that is because it is contaminated, you can say, or possibly it contains lots and lots of different elements in its grid, and those are the reason for the color variations. And that means that even within one single specimen, one single crystal, there can be quite some color differences because this, let's say the division of the different elements is variable. So they're all these are all trace elements. Okay, now then we go to Piemonte. Piemonte is a lot bigger than Aosta. I've been there many times, so I can show you a bit more from there also. And this is it's a very nice region. On the upper left, Domodossola, that's the city of the order. It's let's say quite a large village. Where we sleep every year on our way to the south because driving in one way to Lazio, that's far too much. So this is our yearly bus stop, you could say. In the upper right is a Valle Formazza. I was there for the first time in last year in 23. And on the lower left, it's a village called Traversella that's near Torino. And I'll get back to that later. And the photo on the right is a friend of mine. This is a place called Tavagnasco, and that comes back in a moment. I'll tell you a little bit more about that thing. This, to start with, one of the, let's say, nicest places in Piemonte is Baveno. Above this, on the left side, you see the quarries, I must say. It's located right next to the Autostrada, the highway from Lugano in Switzerland, along the famous Lago Maggiore, that's one in the background, and it goes to Milan. There are several quarries that are quite difficult to access, with a very hard rock and extremely small minerals against an often little contrasting background also. So it's difficult to find. It's difficult to roam there, and it's difficult to find good crystals. But there's quite some rarities, and the first one of those is this. This is Bavenite, and of course, Baveno is the type locality, and it forms. It's a silicate, and it forms ultra thin, rectangular, platy crystals, and often on a white background. So making a photo of these things is quite difficult. But you see how thin they are. This is typical for Bavenite. I know that in the foot mine in North Carolina, it also occurs, and it also makes these crystals like these. What you often see is a combination of these two, quartz on the left and fluorite on the right, and of course these are two very common minerals. Fluorides here can take some different colors, from completely colorless to violet, and characteristic here is the often clearly visible striations here, stripes here in the middle, and you see them in all the crystal faces mostly. Then muscovite is mica, of course. It's just like biotite or phlogopite, but they're often very difficult to distinguish visually. And in any case, these are hexagonally crystallized and typical of the location. So in this case, it's muscovite. One of the, let's say, the most common species here is stilbite, and at least here it's quite easily recognizable because they are always colorless and always in the shape of these tetragonal prisms, which are exactly the same as on the crystal drawing. So this is quite easy to recognize there. Another place, what I just mentioned in Piemonte, is Valle Formazza. It's a very beautiful, elongated valley in the north of Piemonte, more or less parallel to the south side of Switzerland. And I went there for the first time last summer. And it's one of the best places, best regions for anathases like these. This is, of course, let's say a spectacular color, and titanium minerals are particularly common in Valle Formazza. Anatase, brochite, rutile are all, as you know, polymorphs of titanium dioxide. These bright orange anathases are the most attractive, in my opinion, but you can also find them in a range of other colors, due once again to trace elements, and from colorless to yellow to orange to dark blue and even almost black. And you can find them there in all sorts of colors. And that goes, for instance, for this one also. This is yellow, it's completely striated. And yeah, I think I interpret these as growth lines. And the same goes for the underlying quartz. And that also shows these growth lines, these lines. And so I think this is quite an unusual combination. And the annotators there are always, let's say, loose standing and always very sharp edged. Then this epidote comes from the so-called, here it says down here, Premia Gneiss quarries, and I was there last year, but I couldn't go in because they're so immense and difficult to access, because they are parts of a very steep mountain wall, and it's in a part of the valley that is very narrow. So you have to have a guide before you would dare to go in there. Epidote is a typical alpine mineral, always green, sometimes unattractively opaque, dark green, but often also beautifully transparent, well crystallized, and almost always in groups of larger numbers of individual crystals. And this is quite some luster, you can say. Titanite, just as the titanite is titanium silicate, so it's not an oxide. And this is the last one from From Aosta that I show you. It's almost always in companionship with the oxides, and nevertheless, it's fairly easy recognizable by color, shape, etc. And when you can, of course, see the crystal shapes here are more than clear. And this once again here is stilbite. Okay, now well, then something about this one here. This is a place called Tavagnasco, and there you will find a large number of longer and shorter tunnels. And this is the so-called Esperanza tunnel. It's very long, that's 20 meters, very long, with a straight bend after the first 10 meters. And apparently it was once felt necessary to place a statue of the Virgin Mary at the entrance for protection. My buddy André Robelmond is the man in the photo, and I wandered around there in 2021, together with a bunch of Italian colleagues who know their way, because you will never find places like this without local companions. That goes for the most countries here in Europe, at least. And so we were in there. There's another special feature here, that is, you can look for ingrown gold flakes in the rock wall left to the entrance. And I tried that for a while, but without much success. But I was told that it's a possibility there. But this is typical for that region. There are literally dozens of these small tunnels. And the reasons for digging them out, it was, let's say, very small ore bodies that were used for all kinds of purposes. And in Piemonte, you already saw a photo of the area around Travasella in the near Torino. There too, you have a large number of larger and smaller mines and quarries, and of which this Cave Tomino, and note the plural, cave is the single, and cava is single, cave is plural. And so these are, let's say, yeah, a number of small quarries, small tunnels, etc. Allanite is a particularly attractive mineral, often well crystallized, translucent, in various shades of green, yellow, brown, also varying within one crystal. It's another REE mineral with cerium in this case. There are 3 more variants of allanite, La, lanthanum, neodymium, and yttrium, as usual. But CE is the only one that occurs here, so this is without any doubt. Rutile has already been mentioned as one of the polymorphs of titanium dioxide. It's usually red to reddish brown and often grows in the shape of a regular lattice with angles of approximately 60 degrees. And this lattice-shaped variety is often called sagonite. And I think personally I find it a bit redundant because it says it's only rutile in a special form. So why this should have another name is well, it doesn't make very much sense to me. But these grids are found all over the place in the Alps, in lots and lots of places. Spinel is in itself is, as you can see in the formula, is let's say simple stuff with a simple formula. But it comes in all kinds of colors, from completely transparent to completely opaque. And spinel is actually a large group because the magnesium Mg here can be replaced by a lot of other elements. For instance, zinc, and it's zinc spinel is called garnite, and that's blue. I have a few of those too. Not from here, but blue spinel is zinc spinel. And I'm not sure if this one photo is a specific variety, but the spinel here, in any case, always black and very sharp edged, as you can see. This is very nice stuff. Zoonerite, the Montoso quarries, the location where this one comes from are famous among collectors for just this mineral alone, zoonerite. Of course, there are many more species within the quarries, but this is the most well-known eye-catcher. And as one of the uranium minerals, it's of course it's somewhat radioactive, but at this millimeter scale, it's not more than a natural background radiation in my basement. I have a Geiger counter, which I use for these things, and it's never more than the natural radiation in the room. So there's no danger at all. And the colors are fantastic, of course. Then Lombardia. Lombardia is next to Piemonte on the east, and it's approximately the same size, with Milan as capital. And that's why you see a few things here. On the left here, this is the Duomo, the large cathedral, which is huge. On the right here, that's La Galleria, which is, let's say, the very world-famous shopping center where you need, let's say, bottomless pockets if you want to go shop there, because you'll find the shops like Louis Vuitton, Prada, no, you name them. So this is, let's say, the center also of one of the centers of fashion, fashion in Italy. So this is a very expensive environment, but it's a great location. This on the left here, this is the Città Alta, or the higher part of the town from Bergamo. And this is the Lago Maggiore. And these are parts of Lombardia which are, let's say, very much worthwhile to visit. You get there very often, and the Lago Maggiore is a great place to stay for a few days. The first place in this region is Quasso al Monte. It's a village in eastern Lombardy with 4 quarries. As far as I know, 2 of them are still active. And it's mined for the Porphyro Rosso, or the red porphyry, and which is very, very hard, but it contains many cracks and cavities that can accommodate a lot of beautifully crystallized minerals. One of the quarries is called Laghetto, and that means little lake. And it was a very nice place to be in September 2020 when we were there. Take a look. This is the way to collect minerals, isn't it? Convenience serves mankind, so to speak. So this is the remains of the quarry. This is the lake. Laghetto is little lake. And Nazareno is our local Italian friend and guide, and he took care of us, and he took a table and drinks and everything you can think of. So yeah, this was, let's say, the worst thing in the world to do. Also here, fluorite is one of the most, if not the most abundant species, and they vary from colorless, once again, to deep purple, are often a bit irregular, are single as well as intergrown, always well recognizable in the background, and often they are zoned, as you can see in the next picture. And once again, this is fluorite for one. The Gable quarry is another one. And yeah, these are great crystals because they're water clear, quite sharp, but yeah, mostly irregularly formed. And in fact, these are 2 crystals, of course. And the zoning, now, the zoning is clearly visible in this one. And I think this is Cinetim, but I'm not sure about that. Then potassium feldspar, or orthoclase, is the main component of the red porphyry, Porphyro Rosso, which also gives the characteristic color of the rock. But finding good individual crystals with a recognizable structure is not really easy, because most of them have grown together with each other, on top of each other, through each other, etc. So they're very complex buildings, and finding loose crystals that are really recognizable by the crystal drawing are not very abundant. So this is one of the very few that I managed to isolate. But they are typical for the stone there. This photo, I think I should make this make this again, because it's not too clear. Quartz is a relatively common mineral in the porphyry, but most of the quartzes are ingrown fragments. Beautiful isolated crystals are rather rare, and a double terminated like this one is certainly an exception. So this is the only one I found anyway. But the photo must be taken again. This is quite strange stuff. It really doesn't look like it, but this stuff has really been analyzed as being siderite. It's leaf-shaped, deep black. You would rather think of something, some mica or something, but it's really siderite, and it's quite abundant there. And I don't know it in this shape, in this form, from anywhere else. Another place, so a few other places in Lombardia. This is Val Spluga, it's called. And that's a site of specifically beautiful, once again, anatase crystals. And I'll show you one of those on the next. And this is great stuff, of course. Beautiful color, crystal clear, striated beautifully and yeah, very isolated against the background. So that's how I prefer them, because making photos of these things is, yeah, that gives, let's say, quite some results. Another mineral that occurs, a minerals class, I could say, that occurs quite often in Lombardy are zeolites. This is ophiolite, and that are the aggregates of these colorless crystals. And the light blue background is a mineral from the smectite group, and it's a group of clay minerals without many visible crystals. Ophiolite is a zeolite, as I said, and so it's a hydrous silicate, contains lots of water. There are about 150 different zeolites, 50 of which are of natural origin, and 100 are synthetic. And because in industry they are very, very good usable, because of due to their very high resistance to heat and acids. So there's all kinds of industrial applications for them. Plotnerite, simple stuff, as lead oxide, simple as the formula indicates. And in nature, it almost always forms needle-like crystals like these here. And there's also an industrial lead oxide, it's a black powder that is insoluble in water and is widely used in lead, or I hope it was widely used in lead acid batteries. It's very toxic, but as long as it stays in the form of these crystals, it won't do much harm. The matrix is hemimorphite, it's the colorless crystals where they rest on. This plotnerite, yeah. Then Trento, Alto Adige, and that's the area that you, or the region, I must say, that you enter when you go from Austria to Italy through the Brenner Pass, the world famous Brenner Pass. And many people know it better under the name South Tyrol. And that's here. These photos are from internet. I wasn't there. Here are these are the Dolomites. These very sharp, mountains, and one of the places there where that gives lots of minerals is the Zeiser Alm. The Zeiser Alm is, let's say, the largest, so like you can call the meadow in the whole region. Trento is the capital, the regional capital here, and this is Lake Garda, which is overcrowded with tourists every summer. As I said, Zeiser Alm is the largest mountain meadow even in Europe. It's located near Bolzano, and so describing the location of this goethite is just as just Zeiser Alm is rather broad and not very specific. That sometimes the downsides of swapping, people are often quite careless with this kind of data. As for this goethite, it's of course an extremely widespread mineral, found in all kinds of colors and shapes. But these brown needles are, let's say, the most desirable, I think. Fortunately, the location here is better described. Of the Schneid is, let's say, quite specific. Eulandite is also a zeolite, and we formally speak of the Eulandite subgroup. because there are 5 varieties, Eulandite Na, Ca, or K as in the formula, as well as Sr, strontium, and barium, but these are much less common. As long as you do not know which variety it exactly is, you should hence use the name Eulandite subgroup. And like all zeolites, Eulandite is colorless in itself, but this beautiful red color is probably caused by iron hematite. I'm not sure about that, but normally there's iron which causes this color. You had already seen rutile as a sagonite grid. With much more, rutile forms loose, elongated crystals of a reddish brown to brown color. But this multicolored crystal is certainly not an everyday one. Let's say the nicest feature of this one is the color variety, color shift. The green stacked sheets are clinochlor, and it's a mineral that appears often as an accessory mineral in many specimens from the Alps. And I think it's a bit underrated because everybody sees it as accessory, but itself can make very nice specimens. This is something I have never seen before or after. You can call it a surprise. The green spheres, this thing is analyzed, so there's no discussion. The green spheres are rosacite, and the blue crust is zinc rosacite. And in my experience, that should just be the other way around, but this thing is analyzed, so I've never seen them from anywhere else like this. I got this from one of my Italian colleagues, and he explained it to me, and he said that it's formally analyzed. But I wouldn't have figured it out by myself. This is I've never seen before. Veneto, we come to the region of Veneto, in which, of course, Venice, 1 and 2 in Venice. These are the Canali, and the world famous Piazza San Marco. And Inge and I visited Venice some 20 years ago. But in the meantime, tourism has increased so much that the city is really in danger. It's very much threatened. So this year, for the first time, tourists will have to pay an entrance fee to get into the city, which doesn't help, because if you just ask for €5 entrance, that's a peanuts. It doesn't help, but it indicates that the city gets more and more under pressure every year. But it's marvelous. Here on the left is the opera from Verona, and it's famous event every year for a week or so, I think. And on the right is the Soave wine area that produces a very fine and powerful white wine, which is very, very good to combine with meat. So, I can only recommend it. In the Soave wine area, there's a place called Vita, and it's almost everything I have from Veneto comes from there. Gabazite is once again another zeolite. It's usually pseudo-cubic, colorless, and completely transparent, like clear glass. But Gabazite Na, this one here, and there was previously it was called herschelite. This forms disc-shaped hexagonal crystals with a bit more color, and the irregular surface is just as characteristic. So in short, this is a mineral that is usually easy to recognize visually if you know where it comes from. And from the same place, from Vita also, it comes this harmatome, which it's fairly clear to recognize based on the blocky crystal shape, paragenesis, and location. And what you see here is actually a harmatome multi-twin, because there are several intergrowing crystals. This is a crystal, this one here, etc. And that's yeah, say a feature of harmatome, which can be seen often. So you can use that as a recognition characteristic. Eulandite, you saw the red one, but this is a much more common variety, because in itself it's colorless always. And this shape here is clearly visible in this crystal. So there's no doubt about it, because this really is Eulandite as it occurs there. I already mentioned smectite group. So far, you have 3 minerals from Vita. All 3 were zeolites, but they all lie on the matrix, and it's just like the Vogelsberg in Germany, where I went a few times. It's a mineral from the so-called smectite group. As I said, various clay minerals that hardly crystallize and are very difficult to analyze. This stuff is called monmerilonite. That's one of the varieties, along with, for instance, saponite. But in all likelihood, I think it should just be named smectite group, because it's so complex that I think that's even identifying it as one of the subspecies, one of the varieties, is almost impossible. Now, the last regions for today, Emilia-Romagna. We move slowly to the south now, and the tourist and cultural center of it is Bologna. And if I would recommend a city to visit in Italy, then Bologna is certainly a great candidate. Most tourists, of course, go to Rome, Florence, or Venice, but Bologna is somewhat underrated, but definitely worth a visit. I've been there in 2011. These things are called the galleries, Galleria in the plural. And you always stay dry when you're there, because almost the whole inner city is built as roofed galleries like these. Number 2 is the Santuario di San Luca, this thing. If you go on the interstate from Milan to Bologna, that's 180 kilometers straight, and very, very hot, because it's the plain where the river Po goes through. Very flat, very hot, and at the end of it, you see this thing as a landmark. From the A1, it's called, and this is called the Santuario di San Luca, and you see it from far away, so then you know that you're almost in Bologna. Number 3 down here is Ravenna. Ravenna is somewhat more to the south, on the east coast, and these mosaics are world famous, and they're fabulous. I can only recommend that if you're in the neighborhood, just go and look at these churches, because they are mosaics are extraordinary. And the tourists all go to the place where I would never want to be. This is called Rimini. I think that the Europeans among us know that plain. And this photo just shows you why you wouldn't want to be there, because it's this all okay. The sort of tourism that I would never appreciate. Then I have just a few loose minerals from this region, and only through exchange, no finds of my own. This anatase is one of them. It's the fourth I shown you, but note that the crystal shape and color are well different from those that you have already seen. That's why there is another crystal drawing here also, and there are approximately 20 different shapes. And yeah, they are all, let's say, for me as a photographer, annotated is particularly attractive because all kinds of shapes, all kinds of colors, and usually well-developed freestanding crystals, like this. This is something peculiar. What you see here are more or less two colored needle crystals, pyrite colored and greenish, and this is because the green jamborite, that's called, is grown on pyrite colored millerite. And millerite is very simple stuff, NIS, it says here in the formula. But so it's nickel sulfide, but due to various environmental influences, a much more complex nickel mineral sometimes grows on it, and that's called jamborite. And there's a nice anecdote that is that relatively recently, jamborite, which in itself is quite rare, may have been found on millerites from the dump heap of the Hendrik State Mine in Brunsum. That's 10 kilometers from where I live here. And that would be the first time that it would be found there. But whether it's actually true is currently being investigated. So I'm not sure yet, but it's possible that it's really been found there. Yeah. This is called a mess. I call this a mess. Pyroorite is always orange, and as far as I have ever seen specimens of it, it always grows crisscross and with each other. And the best part is actually the bright orange color and the extremely high gloss, which means that if you know the location, you can hardly make a mistake. And, but it's quite rare, I think. And that's conclusion for today. No, it's just an hour. So in July and in June, Gerard is his turn, and I won't be there because I'm in the US for a month. But in July I will do part 2. That's Tuscany, Lazio, Campania. That's near Naples, Sicily, and Sardinia, and that's also about an hour. So thanks again. That's it.
Yep. Do you want to stop sharing?
Yes, of course.
Yep.
Okay.
Excellent.
Yes. All right.
That was very, very good, Henk. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yes. Beautiful.
Very good.
Now,
Very good.
Doug quite rightly put in the chat that Hessenite is actually a variety of Groschula. It's not a distinct species. Groschula.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Not
not a distinct species.
Sure, no, okay, club. Yeah, you're right.
So just for completeness.
Yeah.
Do we have any questions of Henk? No.
Just to congratulate him on his photography, as
Yeah,
usual.
very good. Yeah, very good.
Beautiful
Yeah.
as always.
Spectacular.
First class.
You can better congratulate me on my visits to Italy every year.
Yeah.
Because Italy is for let's say doing summer holidays is fantastic land, fantastic country, and not only because of the weather, also because of the variety in cities, variety in landscapes, the always very friendly people who talk Italian, and Inge and I study a bit of Italian, so because we go there every year. So we do it with hand and feet, of course, but it's a great country.
That's how most Italians do.
Yeah, I know. And next time I'll tell you a small story with in a place in Tuscany where I was 20 years ago, which will always be in my memory as so typical Italian that I always tell it again. But I'll tell you that in 2 months. Okay.
All right. I've got just one thing that I wanted to mention. I'll just do share screen. This is a bit of homework for everybody. So this is, if I get those out of the way, this is just a screenshot I took, Henk, of hessonite. And
but by the way, do you see here that there is a small child crystal on it?
Yeah.
Yes, I do. But
Yeah.
but the thing for people to think about is this face here is one example, is 7-sided.
Yeah.
Why?
Wow.
Oh man.
I'll sleep on that.
In minerals,
Drink on
in minerals,
I'm actually making a presentation about crystallography and how crystals develop in different shapes. But
Right.
I haven't seen that yet. So
well, you can have obviously anything from 3 sides upwards, but you normally don't see, you see 5-sided ones, particularly pyrite and things like that. But 7 is unusual. So it must be that
maybe it's a new mineral. Sorrelite.
Anyway, we'll leave it at that. And if anybody does have an answer, please let me know. I'd be interested. It's obviously something to do with the crystal form and that particular face, but worthwhile looking into. All right. If there's no other questions, we'll finish up for today and see you all again in a month's time.
Yes.
Yeah.
See you in 2 months.
Or 2 months for you, Henk, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Cheerio.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.